We're here to talk about Devs Episode 3, the episode where Lily showed us exactly how reckless she really is.
I met the f***ing Russian operative yesterday, right by Golden Gate Bridge in broad daylight.
And if that wasn't enough of a spoiler for you already, we're going to be spoiling the entire episode, so if you haven't seen it, go back, watch it, come back here, and then subscribe to GameSpot for more stuff about the stuff you like. The intro of this episode, I think it's pretty safe to say, is horrifying. It's that, like, you know, the code kind of coalescing into an image, like, over the, like, garbled sounds. Ugh.
I think it's scary because of the sound. We're getting pictures, but they're having a hard time figuring out the sound. And so you get little snippets, and we can glean a couple of things from this. We're seeing the Gettysburg Address. You recognize 407, and we just get that little snippet. A little bit of speech from somebody being burned at the stake who...
Probably Joan of Arc, we think. I mean, it sounds a little bit like French, but again, it's so, like, garbled that you can't really make out language. Same with, there's the Christ on the Cross scene is revisited, which I assume he's speaking, like, Hebrew, maybe? Or something. I don't know history well enough to say that for sure.
You're not a historian?
I'm not a historian, unfortunately, but there is audio.
Yeah.
Is kind of the point being made here.
Joan of Arc or whoever, like, screaming is like one of the snippets, and that's like, it's so unsettling. But then it as we go through these, it rapidly catches up to the present, and now we're looking at Sergei being killed, and we're looking at Lily putting the sign up in the window, and it's like, oh, this is a tool where we can explore history, but it also can be used for surveillance. This relates to the overall story of the episode, which is the senator coming to visit and try to get this technology. Forrest saying you want it for the NSA, which is very topical and scary.
Yeah, and Forrest basically has this resounding, like, I don't care about, like, he can't say it to the center, obviously, but he says it to Kenton that he doesn't give a fuck about national security.
He said it in episode 1, I think he said it to Sergei.
Yeah, which, I mean, he can't say that in so many words, but he basically says that to the senator.
You want my systems for the NSA.
We want your systems for America. Unless you think America's trivial too.
The first actual scene in the episode is Lyndon and Stuart and Katie inside the devs unit. Katie walking in on a very awkward scene between Lyndon and Stuart where they're watching Arthur Miller, an American playwright who wrote Death of a Salesman, The Crucible, among other things, having sex with Marilyn Monroe.
You know, like you do, I guess.
This reminded me of another show I watched recently, Mythic Quest on Apple TV, where there's a whole episode about if you give gamers a tool for creation, they will create dicks with that tool. And Katie brings up a similar rule, which is if a new technology is invented at any point, it will be used for porn. Which I think she's not wrong. I think
she's
that's
obviously
rule.
not wrong. Like, Stuart and Lyndon are proving her point here, but she also, in that conversation, she reveals that the devs unit has two very important rules. One is that they do not invade privacy, which is literally what Stuart is doing here. He's invading privacy. And two, that they only look backwards, they never look forwards, which kind of puts our conversation about the first two episodes in an interesting perspective, because we had some debate about that, about whether or not they were, like, surveilling the future.
if they can look backward, can they also look forward? It turns out they can, but they don't. But they do.
But they don't. Right. The second Katie walks out of the room in that scene, Stuart's like,
don't break the rules? Coming from her?
As far as we can tell, it's an open secret that, like, people are obviously using this technology to look...
Well, Katie and Forrest, who are in charge, clearly are not following the rules. Lyndon and Stuart, and presumably the other people within devs, are aware of this. And it's just sort of, they don't really say it out loud.
Yeah, which is a little concerning, all things considered.
That sort of leads into the next scene, which is the senator coming to visit, trying to get Forrest to divulge what devs is working on, and he very much does not want to.
No, and I mean, that comes as absolutely no surprise, knowing what we know about Forrest, but he is trying to kind of skirt around the impression that, like, he can't tell the senator to f*** off, obviously, because she basically, like, tells him outright that she will crucify him in a public hearing. She's
not wrong about it. She makes a very solid case. But so he sort of is divulging tiny bits of information, trying to walk up to the line of how much he can say to her that will get her to back off, while also not revealing what they're actually doing.
We're using our quantum system to develop a prediction algorithm.
What he doesn't say is it predicts things that happened 2,000 years in the past.
Right.
And they're also, looking at the future potentially. But he does sort of get there. But I do love, there's a couple things that she says that I love. Her description of social media, Twitter makes...
Spot on.
Right. Instagram makes people hate themselves. Twitter makes people hate each other. Facebook has ruined democracy. We need tech, we use it, but we don't like tech companies anymore.
They use you, they need you, but they don't like you anymore.
The landscape has changed, and so, if this goes to a hearing or something, like, the public will not come down on Amaya's side.
Yeah, it very much reminded me of like those scenes in The Social Network where they're talking about, oh, I could just crucify you in court. Oh, I just turned a jury on you in 2 questions. It was that kind of dialogue, which I thought was really cool.
And the way that conversation ends, I also really love, because she asks him, if you're predicting the future, is it going to rain tomorrow? And he goes, doesn't look like it. It's the most smart-ass response, because the whole point is that he could go and predict it, but instead he just looks out the window.
It also, again, knowing what we know about Forrest, it feels dangerous. Like, it feels like the senator is about to get surrogate. Like, she's gonna get, like, disappeared.
Right, she's poking the bear here.
Right, which is, I mean, that's dicey. When you have a company that can do that to, like, a senator, it's like, well, what can't they do?
I feel like the Kenton and her security guy, who have a little conversation, I feel like they're gonna wind up killing each other.
Yeah, it definitely.
There's gonna be a confrontation
really
between
feels
the two
like
of them.
that. Ooh.
The whole next part got me. Like, it really got me, and it lasts like a good chunk of the episode, where Lily, in front of various people through multiple scenes, is acting like she's schizophrenic and is having an episode.
Yeah, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of this episode, is that Lily is very good at pretending that she's losing it. And, like, it's weird because it makes you feel like, oh, this is really dumb. Like, she's making a bunch of very stupid choices.
But it feels logical, too, because, like, based on everything that she has gone through, her boyfriend who she loved getting killed, meeting a Russian spy, for somebody with the history that she describes allegedly having, which we later find out is made up, it feels logical, like this
it's
could
a breakdown
really
that
happen.
really makes it. She does this whole performance with Jen, her friend, who is also on Sergei's nematode team. They do this whole performance for Kenton that, like, he buys it, which is
they bring
impressive.
back the Fibonacci thing, and we had seen in episode 1 them doing the game where they try to recite Fibonacci numbers as far as they can go, and that sold it to me too. I was like, oh, this feels, it just feels
legit.
real. And so in a lot of Kenton scenes this episode, he's like holding his side where he got
he got kind of stabbed,
by Anton. But when she crawls out on the ledge, I was fully there, and then Jen goes around the desk
and pulls out a little USB.
And we have a note stock that, and I'm going, I can't believe Lily is doing all this. She's being such an idiot. See, she's not actually that smart.
Yeah.
Turns out I was the one who was not
incredibly smart. And it's also, it kind of goes back to, because of course my immediate thought was when Jen was, plugging in her USB, I was like, why can't she just access Kenton's computer? And then I remembered Forrest literally explains, he's like, oh, it's just like the rest of the company. There's no passwords, no times, no anything. So, like, this entire, like, open source tech office, which is, like, oh, hip and modern and cool, it's biting them right in the ass, because Jen can just pop off that security footage.
And I wonder if they knew the senator was there too. Like, did they time it?
I don't know.
They timed it so perfectly for Lily to be standing outside on this ledge as Forrest is escorting the senator back to the helipad. For them to witness that, an emergency on that scale is maybe the only thing that would have gotten Kenton to make such a massive mistake as to leave his office unattended with a foreign person inside.
Like, yeah, no, it seems impossible that Lily could have known about the senator. Like, it seems absolutely impossible, but this is one of those, like, weird coincidental things that, like, in this show, it feels like it can't be a coincidence.
It just worked out in her favor, maybe, I guess.
Something happened.
There's a really fun montage here.
It's so cute.
Which includes Stuart pushing Lyndon on a rolling chair.
Yeah, it's like a little, like, office shenanigans in, like, the weirdest office ever.
Set to the age of Aquarius from the musical Hair, which I personally associate most with the 40-Year-Old Virgin, but it's this song about entering the age of Aquarius, which is like an age of
love and light and utopia.
Peace for all humanity, which is like
very ironic,
it's
all
a
things
stark
considered.
contrast to the age that this show is depicting, which is very close to our own actual reality, which is dystopian as
Mm-hmm.
So that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think the contrast there is really supposed to put you on edge, because it's like, oh, we're entering the dawn of a new age, which in the devs world, it seems like the dawn of a new age is right around the corner.
An age of
horrible,
unlimited surveillance
yes,
at your fingertips, thanks to quantum computing
Yep.
and Forrest's arrogance or whatever.
Yay.
We get this conversation between Forrest and Kenton, which is illuminating, but we're not quite sure yet exactly what it illuminates.
It's very, very interesting, because what happens is that Kenton, obviously having dealt with Lily on the ledge and whatnot, they meet up after this whole ordeal is over, and Forrest says that that the event nearly f***ed the universe.
Right. Is this because if Lily had killed herself there in front of this senator, it would have started a whole, extra line of inquiry. Like the senator would stop, the senator and Forrest discussed his campaign contributions, which are probably buying him a little bit of slack with her. That probably would have all out the
universe
window.
In the sense that it would have stopped the evolution of the devs program, which in Forrest's head is saving the universe, or did it f*** the universe in the sense that he knows something is going to happen that does not include Lily's suicide?
Right, and it seems like, based on what he says to Kenton, it seems like he thinks that Lily needs to survive for some reason.
Right.
Or he just really doesn't want Kenton to murder Lily, because he says,
But nothing is going to happen to her, Kenton.
I know.
Yeah.
so it's one or the other, right? He's either concerned for Lily, which I don't quite buy,
No, it
or
doesn't seem right.
for some reason he believes that she needs to survive.
But either way, it's illuminating in the sense that it's the first time we've ever seen Forrest kind of externally doubt the tram lines.
Right, his whole deterministic thing.
He seems a bit concerned that some deviation could actually happen, where, if you put that up against Katie, who is very certain about the determinism and about the tram lines and about the non-existence of choice, it's interesting to see Forrest doubt in that way.
Right.
Which, it's a little bit concerning, but it also is a little bit humanizing for him.
It seems like to me, this confirms that he has indeed peeked into the future with the machine, and that he knows something that we as the audience don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if Kenton knows it either.
I don't think he does.
But Kenton, at the end of this conversation, does attempt to reassure him by saying,
It's all okay, sir. We're still on your tram lines.
so maybe Kenton is in the know.
Maybe, I don't know.
The final scene of this episode is Lily going back to Jamie's house.
Climbing through the window again! Why not just use a door?
She's got him completely in her pocket, which is kind of embarrassing for him. I know that he's the true gamer, and
We love Jamie. I want Jamie to be the victorious one out of this whole, situation.
I want Jamie to stand up to Lily and stop letting her use him for her plotting and scheming and coming to him for tech support. So they crack into this footage that Jen has stolen from Kenton's computer, and he very quickly discerns something that we already knew and Lily suspected, which is that the footage was fake.
And he does so by identifying copied flame patterns, which obviously in nature, you're never going to see the exact replication of two of the same flame twice.
For multiple frames.
Right.
So we see the scene, and it's kind of the mic drop of the episode, and it fell a little flat for me because we already knew that it was faked. And so seeing them fake it was not a revelation. It was interesting. We saw the degree to which they faked it versus what was real. So obviously they drag the body there and they pour gasoline on it and they light it on fire. So that part is real. It is the flames, specifically when he lights himself on fire in the footage and is falling over, that's the part that's faked. So they really did have to zero in on a few frames of the video in order to discern that it was falsified.
And it is really interesting because in the undoctored footage, you get to see just how many people were involved. This was not a two-man show.
It's not just
Kenton.
Forrest and Kenton.
Yeah, you can assume that the devs unit just as a whole is very much in on the murder game.
It reminded me of John Wick when he calls the guy and says,
I'd like to make a dinner reservation.
and then a crew of people shows up and just rolls up all the bodies and puts them in a rug, and then you give them the coins. It was like a cleaning crew. It felt like they had done this before. for, as we said before about Kenton and Forrest. This episode shed light, I think, most of all on the state that Lily's in, which is, it goes back to what Jamie said about her being reckless and her doing things that other people would only talk about. Like this whole scheme that she's like got Jen involved in, and now Jamie is like super in it, also like feels like it might have some consequences. You know, if Kenton realizes that
she has like accomplices,
that he got duped, that they got him, I don't feel like he's gonna really deal with that in a mature way.
I feel like Jen is in deep trouble here, and I feel like Lily has also brought Jamie, and like Jamie has, as far as we know, has never set foot on like the Devs campus, like or the Amaya campus. Like he should ostensibly be safe, but he does not feel safe to me at all.
At least he's got his gaming skills and himself.
I died.
That's the end of Devs episode 3, and I have to say my main takeaway from this episode is I am very concerned.
Somehow the show just keeps getting more and more ominous.
I'm super worried about the safety of all of these characters, and none of them really seem to be aware of the danger. Even Lily, like, you know Sergei was murdered, you don't seem to be you're doing plots, and it's, you know, this is a fun caper, but like, you're gonna get murdered. That's what I think.
Until then, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week. Hopefully no one else gets murdered. Until then, I'm Rusty Polish on Twitter.
Rogue Cheddar.
Rogue Cheddar. Keep it here at GameSpot. We'll be back next week.